it's values. It's certain values that you're trying to expose the kids to. And one of the things that we do try to do is try to give the students a way of coming up with their values, but with guidance.
Okay, so they're like exercises that you might do in the classroom that would...
Right. All of our teachers' guides are filled with probably anywhere from about 40 to maybe 60 lesson plans, and each one of those lesson plans is going to have at least one activity, maybe 3 and 4 activities, and those activities are very specific to the different things, so that it could be role-playing types of things. It could be
so for example, let's say, I don't know, I'm Jewish and you're Catholic, and there's a problem based on some kind of prejudice between the religions. What kind of role-playing would these exercises?
Well, there would be what we're trying to do from the beginning is the whole idea of having certain values and having certain tolerance. Now, the role plays that we would get into are, could be specific to something like that, and getting into the feelings of why you're feeling that way. One of the things that we deal with a lot is what we call the I statement, which is a way of expressing your feelings in a way that's going to be respectful of the other person. So that there are techniques that we're trying to show on expressing your feelings, being respectful to that. When you were asking about religion, we are not a religious program, but I would say that I think we could say that we're probably very much based on Judeo-Christian ethic, or probably the values of any major religion in the world, so that it does come through, and it makes us so that we're very accepted in different places. We do a lot of work outside of the United States as well, and so that we are able to be culturally sensitive, or the way that our stuff is put together does have the element of cultural sensitivity.
You mentioned that you're doing a lot of work outside of the United States. Where is the Peace Education Foundation working?
Well, we have some major projects going on in Venezuela, in Argentina, in Guatemala, and in the Dominican Republic. 2 of our trainers are in Argentina right now, going to be training in 7 different cities. But in addition to that, we're used in South Africa, in New Zealand, in Australia, in other English-speaking countries. Most of our materials, we do have a grade-level specific curriculum, pre-K to high school, are available also in Spanish. We have a few things in Haitian Creole, and we have some things in French.
So how do people find out about your curriculum? For example, in New Zealand and Australia, how did you guys begin working in places so far away?
To be honest with you, I don't know the answer to that question exactly. I mean, because we were working in those places even before the internet was concerned. But one of the things is that we are, in the United States, we're working in probably about 20,000 schools across the country. So that we are the largest program of our kind, and so that there would have been kind of knowledge about it in that sense.
Right, and you mentioned that you have a special status as an NGO with the United Nations. What is that all about?
Well, we went through a process of accreditation with the United Nations, and what we are is a non-governmental organization in special consultative status with the United Nations, with the ECOSOC of the United Nations. Actually, this being a program sponsored by the UNA, it's kind of appropriate to talk about this a little bit. But there's the ECOSOC, or the Economic and Social Council, is the main body of the United Nations. But they're one of the bodies that give accreditation. The Department of Public Information gives accreditation. We're accredited with them as well. UNESCO does. So I'm not sure exactly how many of their bodies actually do this, but
so do they maybe refer your program to different parts of the world, or?
No, I don't think that that we're referred by them at all. But we do very much support the ideals of the United Nations. And for instance, in the United States, really, the United Nations isn't an and especially being an NGO in consultative status with the United Nations, is not that significant. But when you travel abroad and you're working abroad, it does have a lot of significance to the organizations and groups you're working with, because there is a consciousness of NGOs. I mean, I bet a lot of people in the United States aren't even familiar with NGOs or the concept of something labeled that way. They would know nonprofit organizations.
Well, we'll continue this conversation. We'll be right back after this brief pause. You're watching Miami's Global Connection.
My father taught me a lot about life without ever saying a word. When I was a little girl, my friends were all just like me. His never were.
Hello, hello.
Didn't you bring them, George?
I thought you were going
No, I brought them last time. Huh?
You're right. I forgot. All right, so we'll be with...
I used to wonder, why would a Jew, a Christian, and a Muslim ever get together?
It was him.
And then I finally got it. They had a lot more in common than donuts.
Friendship. Pass it on. A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
Hi, welcome back to Miami's Global Connection. I'm Whitney Belker, and we're talking to Llyod van Bylevelt with the Peace Education Foundation. Llyod, you were talking about the significance of the United Nations and how in the United States and your affiliation as an NGO with the UN is not that important, but when dealing with your projects and your curriculum internationally, you found that that affiliation with the UN has been important. What can you share with us about that?
Well, I mean, when you're working with other organizations in Latin America, for instance, which is where we really do go frequently and things, there's a certain respect that's given to your organization just for having accomplished that feat. Really, and getting the accreditation is probably a 2 or 3 year process, so that it does